Alright guys, so I have been seeing a lot of people ask a lot of basic questions when it comes to PvP. Whether I'm in somebody's stream, my own stream, somebody else's YouTube video, or my own YouTube video, there's a lot of questions from newer players who either just got the game and want to PvP, or maybe people who have been playing ESO for quite some time, but they just really never got into PvP. They've always done questing or PvE, and they're like, hey, I want to play PvP. So they load up, they slap on a YouTuber's build, they put on Ema's build, they put on my build, they put on a KLG build, they go into Cyrodiil, and then they get absolutely steamrolled by some sweat who hasn't left his mom's basement in the last 23 years. This might not make you the best player, but we are going to try and help you be able to hold your own so you can go into Cyrodiil and you can have fun and you don't get completely ran over by everybody you see. So to start off, one of the most important things is obviously you need a build. There's plenty of builds, but let's go over the basic things that you need in a build. So first of all, when it comes to your gear, you obviously need damage, sustain, and survivability. Damage, obviously you want to be able to kill people. Survivability, obviously you can't kill anybody no matter how much damage you have if you're dead. And sustain, because if you're not able to block an attack or roll dodge somebody's in cap, you're going to be dead. None of your damage is going to matter because you're dead on the floor. So this is a completely random build that I've just recently made. I do have one slight flaw with this build, but for me personally, it's not a huge deal. So first of all, we have Essence Thief. Essence Thief will give you a little bit of healing. It'll give you some stamina sustain, but it gives you a lot of damage. You have Rallying Cry. This will be our defensive set. It gives you a lot of critical resistance, which in this current meta that we have, a crit damage meta, crit resistance is very important, and you need to try and mitigate that as much as possible. Blood Spawn, even more mitigation on here, and survivability. A little bit sustained with the One Piece, and it generates some ultimate. You have your One Piece trainee, which also helps again with your survivability. 1500 HP. Even if you have, it's kind of like having some mitigation, right? You have some extra cushioning with a little bit more HP. Your Mythic. So my Mythic here, I personally like to use Markin. Markin gives you a little bit of damage, a little bit of healing, and some survivability with the armor. Next thing you have to do is get into your traits. So we'll start with the weapons. When it comes to your weapons, there's basically in PvP 3 to 4 traits that you use. Number one is Nern. Nern, it's one of the best traits, if not, in my opinion, the best trait in the game, because this gives you 200 plus weapon damage, right? So, for example, on dual wield, your base weapon damage is 1335. At Nerd, you're getting 200 free weapon damage. The next one is Defending. Again, this one adds some mitigation, so you take less damage, you're less likely to die by a ganker or something, right? Or somebody's burst. The next one is Precise. Precise, usually pretty niche, mainly for some niche crit builds like I had here with Order's Wrath. And the last one is usually Sharpened, which is usually the most used. If you're running dual wield, it's usually one Nern on your main hand, always your main hand, never your offhand. If you're a new player, you might not know this. You're like, why not run Nern on both hands? Because there's diminishing returns basically on a double Nern. So your main hand, you're getting this full 1500 weapon damage here. Right here, you're getting this full 1500 weapon damage. On your offhand, it's only using about 20% of this. So if you upgrade this to 1500, that extra 200, you're only benefiting from about 40 weapon damage. And this pen is more damage than the 40 weapon damage. So usually, you're going dual wield, it's always one Nern, one sharp. Like I said, sometimes there's niche cases like here where I had a piece of precise. When you're having 2H, there's some different possibilities here. You can either go with a 2H sharp sword, which will give you about 250 weapon damage, and it'll give you the pen, help you do more damage. You can go full pen with a 2H maul and then sharpen. Never go 2H maul with Nern, because you just get completely worse stats than it versus a 2H sword with sharpen. A 2H sharpened sword gives both better pen and weapon damage than a 2H Nern maul. So on your front bar, again, usually Nern or sharpened. Your back bar, you're usually using something like defending. Sometimes you can use powered. 90% of the time, you're just going to use defending. When it comes to your armor traits, in PvP, you're doing one of two things. In pen or well fitted. So most of the time, you're going to see people running all well fitted. Your chest piece, usually you want it to be heavy. Reinforced heavy gives you the most bang for your buck. So if you're using Rallying Cry, you have a little bit more room to experiment, whether you're using Nern on some light pieces, or you're going some extra well fitted so you can roll dodge. Again, usually you're using mostly in pen and maybe one or two pieces of reinforced. Your jewelry, I actually have a video on this going over Bloodthirsty versus Infused. Usually the two most used. Infused will give you a bit of both. It'll give you some tankiness with your, because it increases your healing, and it gives you some damage because obviously weapon damage equals some damage. You can go Bloodthirsty, which is full damage, gives you more overall damage than Infused will, but it does not increase any of your healing. There's then Swift, which on this build is probably what I should have used, is maybe some Swift. It's not how I like to play. Play style is a big thing, which we'll also go over. But Swift, if you want some movement speed, will work here too. And Protective, if you're struggling, you feel like you're dying a lot, Protective also works very well in this meta. It's what React Faster uses. One of the best, if not the best Xer in the game uses Protective. So you want to make a build, again, it's the base of everything is your build. You can take E-Men, you can take Juggy, take me, KLG, whoever you want, React. If you have a terrible build, you're not going to be able to do anything. You need a decent build at minimum. Again, the main important things is your survivability. You need some damage, probably not as much damage as you think you do, although it is more fun having more damage. And last but not least, your sustain, because if you have no sustain, if you can't roll dodge, if you can't attack, you can't block, you can't heal, you're going to die. So it doesn't matter how tanky you are, how much damage you do, no sustain, none of it matters. Okay, so next up, your basic things, your basic buffs that you would get from skills or potions. So on this build, for example, one of the most important buffs is your source of major brutality and sorcery. This gives you an extra 20% weapon and spell damage. So if you're new to the game, you don't know that. Now you do. Possibly one of the most important buffs in the game, equal with Major Resolve. If you're a PvEer, you probably know this, so you should be fine. Here on this build, I'm using Wrecking Blow, which gives me an extra 10% damage done, Major Berserk, so it also helps with damage. Here, you're not always going to have a cleanse, but a cleanse is... Here, you're not always going to have a cleanse, but a cleanse is nice to have when you do have it. So if you're using Restoring Light, you will have a cleanse. Basically, if you have any damage over time on you, if somebody applies a debuff on you, whether it's Major Defile, which reduces your healing done, you can cleanse it off of you. Obviously, this is not something you're going to spam. This is going to be something maybe you have too much dot pressure on you. You need to clear a little bit off. Go ahead, hit it once. This has a healing over time. Don't spam it. You'll run out of magicka. Everybody needs a burst heal. Burst heal basically is your main way of getting your HP back. I know in PvE, a lot of the time you're sitting with a healer and you don't have an actual efficient burst heal. You know, I see a lot they're using the Stam Arc Tentacle, which gives you a little bit of healing. In PvP, it will not work. You need a burst heal, whether it's Honor the Dead or it's Healing Soul from Scribing or maybe Healing Contingency or whatever skill line you're using, you need a burst heal. The most important here is your Major Resolve buff. Major Resolve gives you your armor. In PvE, this is basically completely useless on all DPSs. You're not worried about your Major Resolve because you're not taking damage. In PvP, you're taking damage, you're taking a lot of damage, and again, you need to mitigate as much as possible. Major Resolve is your important buff that you have to have on, or you will get absolutely steamrolled by everybody. So this gives you 6,000 armor resistances. This needs to always be up at all times, which when I go over rotations and keeping buffs up, I'll talk about that. Your next one you need is a source of minor resolve. 99% of the time, it's Echoing Vigor, or Resolving Vigor as the better morph. This is a very strong hot, healing over time, and it also gives you your minor resolve. It's an absolutely loaded skill, possibly one of the best skills in the game. And then usually, not always, but most of the time, you need a source or have a source of Major Breach, which reduces your armor by 6k, basically mitigating your Major Resolve. Another one you usually have, which I do not have any Psijic here, but you need another buff there is a snare removal, which happens to be on my forward momentum. This basically, if you get slowed, somebody hits you with an immobilize, whether it's DK talent, you get hit with rending slashes or jabs, and it slows you, snares you. You need to be able to get that off of you. So you usually want to have a snare removal of some kind, and at the very least, if you don't, a source of Major Expedition. You get both of these from the Psijic skill line from Race Against Time. Gives you both Major Expedition and your snare removal. Loaded skill. So those are your things. Next, let's talk about the skills that you use. So you have a spammable. Your spammable is what is basically like your beam in PvE. This is your ability that you're mostly using to do your consistent damage on, which mine happens on here to be Wrecking Blow. Next, you usually want to have a stun. Binding Javelin and Streak, probably the two best stuns in the game. Both unblockable, which is why. But usually as long as you have a stun, you'll be okay. You want to be able to stun your opponent so you can maybe get some burst off or maybe buy you some time to get your healing. So on here, I have a burst build. On this burst build, you need a burst ability. So you have your spec bow. Spec bow does a bunch of damage. Pretty straightforward. Builds won't always have an execute, but an execute is always nice to have. Helps you finish your kill when they get low. Hit an execute. Hopefully they die. You always have your ult. On your front bar, your ult is usually a damage ulti. So here I have Crescent Sweep. Does a bunch of damage and then gives me some dot damage. There's also Dawnbreaker, which again, basically the same as Crescent Sweep. Does a bunch of damage, then gives you a strong dot. And then you have things like the 2H ult, Bonk, as Eamon calls it. The 2H ult basically ignores resistances, so you're getting basically pure damage, right? There's no mitigation that you're fighting through, so that is always nice. On your back bar, you are usually going to have some type of defensive ulti, whether it's Temporal Guard, which will give you damage mitigation. Here I have Reviving Barrier. I rarely use this. It's usually for emergencies. If usually when you are dueling somebody, say you go to Stormhaven or something, it's frowned upon. You usually do not use a defensive ulti. You're only using offensive ultis. It's just kind of etiquette for dueling. Open world, BGs, IC. Use it when you need it. Again, like I said, I very rarely use this. I very rarely need it. It's very expensive. I'm trying to get as many of these Crescent Sweeps as I can to keep some damage and some pressure up. So for newer players, we are going to suggest mostly defensive CP. So something like Focus Mending, which will increase your healing, indirectly helps you survive. Something like Cleansing Revival, when you get into that execute range, any type of debuff or dot that you have on you will be cleansed, also helps you survive. A very important one here is Ironclad. Just completely mitigates all damage direct taken by 6%, which is absolutely huge. Basically mitigates the other CP we're going to get into. There's Resilience, gives you more critical resistance on top of your Impen or Rally Cry. This can also be nice, especially in this meta. When you come to your damage CP, you are usually using something, like I said, Crit Meta. You have something like Fighting Finesse, increase your crit damage. And Master at Arms, which is usually on every build, mostly. Disregard dot builds for now. I'll get into those maybe a different day or later. But direct damage attacks, this includes your Wrecking Blow, your Spec Bow, your Javelin, your Dawnbreaker, most of your skills, Surprise Attack, Jabs, all of this gets buffed by this, which is why Ironclad is nice, because it then mitigates them. So those are our basics when it comes down to CPs. You have your red CP, your basic red CP. There's going to be two things that you always have on 100% of the time in PvP. The first one is Pain's Refuge. Pain's Refuge, obviously, as you can read it, reduce your damage taken by 2% for every 2 negative effects. So when you have, Major Defile, Minor Defile, or Ellie Sus on you, you're getting damage reduction. Super good, helps you stay alive. Obviously, you have this slotted, reduces status effects applied to you, elemental status effects applied to you by 5% per stage. So this will reduce the time that burning is burning you, or you have the chilled status effect, or whatever it is. Another popular one, usually sustained by suffering. As I said earlier, sustain is very important. This helps you sustain. No sustain equals dead. Sustain equals potentially staying alive. Another good one is Relentless. Being stunned or feared gives you major protection for 3 seconds, reducing your damage by 10%. So basically, if you get stunned on cooldown, which is at 8%, which is, an 8-second invulnerable slot window where you can't be stunned or feared. So for 5 seconds, you're not going to have major protection if you're getting stunned every 8 seconds. Again, the next one that is mandatory is Survival Instincts. This helps you sustain. Again, like I said, sustain is a very important thing in PvP. Probably the most important thing. What I personally like to use is Fortified. Again, also helps with your survivability. There's things like Peace of Mind. Again, sustain. Your green CP, there's only one green CP that matters in PvP, and that is Break Fall. Sometimes you have to jump off the side of a keep, a side of a building, something like that. You take fall damage. Obviously, you don't want to have to jump off the side of the keep and you lose 70% of your health. This guy throws a javelin and then you're dead. The first thing you always want to make sure is up is your major resolve, your minor resolve, if you have a hot such as your Purify from Restoring Light. Make sure you have this buff right here, your Major Brutality, and then another buff I forgot to go over is a source of your Major Crit. What is this called? Prophecy, Major Prophecy, or Major Savagery, which increases your crit. This one's not 100% mandatory, but it's always nice to have. So, for example, I am using potions to get mine. Potions are a very important thing. Helps you, again, sustain, and helps keep you alive because they also give you health back. Obviously, blocking is very important. As you see, I'm blocking right here. I pop my Vigor, which then procs my Rallying Cry, also gives me my Minor Resolve. I apply my Elisus, putting Major Breach on him. I then throw down my Major Resolve buff, and then I pop my Purify. It was almost gone. I had some damaging effects on me. Pop that, and I come to my front bar. I light attack his Blast Bones, so I can proc my Essence Thief. I roll dodge into it to avoid any type of damage. Roll dodge again, because again, he was throwing out damage. I was kind of low on my HP. Block his attacks as I again rebuff up. I stun him here, and I shot a Spec Bow. That was my damage. My damage comes from a Spec Bow, is most of my burst. So what I did is I threw my Javelin to set it up. So my rotation here ends up being my Major Resolve, my Minor Resolve, my Restoring Light Purify, which is also a hot, and my Major Brutality buff, as well as keeping my pots up so I can keep my Major Crit buff up. Right here I have a proc set timer on, so this tells me when my rally. I also have it right here. This one's more noticeable. This will tell me my rally is getting low, so I can switch to my back bar and proc it, which helps me stay alive. You never want your minor or major resolve buff to fall down. You really never want your major brutality buff to fall down. Your major crit buff is not as important. It's still important, but not as important. Some builds don't even use it. But major brutality, major resolve, minor resolve, 3 necessary buffs every build must have, and you must keep up at all times. Again, when you're going through it, you want to throw down your major resolve so you have that buff. Pop your vigor so you get your minor resolve. I then throw down my purify because it's a hot. And I then apply my major brutality at some point in there or after, because I need that 20% weapon and spell damage, which increases healing and damage done. So at some point, I kill him right here. So as you see, I stun him, boom, he stuns me. I have the passive, so I'm blocking. So I then crescent him because I see him walking backwards on his front bar. He then throws up his blast bones and roll dodges. I'm keeping the pressure on. I'm following him. I throw out my wrecking blow, giving me my major berserker, my damage. I then, again, I throw my javelin for the stun to knock him down and get off my burst, which I then impel him because he was already low, because he did not go and heal. Starting, I throw down my Purify, my Minor Resolve, Major Resolve. I apply my Elisus. I switch to my front bar. I light attack him to get my essence. I then try to put on the pressure. So as you see, the first thing I did here is after I had my Elisus, light attack, proc the essence, throw down the Major Berserk. I then ult, since it's buffed by my Major Berserk. As you see, this completely bursted his health down all the way to 46% with a light attack, a wrecking, and a crescent. So, as you see, my plan was to then hit him with the stun. He's on the back foot. My plan was to hit him with the stun. I would have spec bowed him, and he probably would have died. He roll dodged it because he knew that was coming because he was low. Great awareness from him, obviously. I then get my stun off anyways. He breaks free. What's the first thing he did, like I did earlier? Break free, roll dodge. You know the damage is coming. You're low on HP. So he heals back up. My Kajanus pops up. I rebuff right here. Pop my Vigor. Throw down my Elisus. Put my Major Resolve once again. Throw my Purify down. Vigor again. Burst heal because he did some damage. I light attack, go on the offensive. Boom, javelin, spec bow. Every time, stun into a burst, which is my spec bow. Right here, I stun him, I spec bow him. Once again, that's the combo. I try to throw down to execute, doesn't go through. I hit him with some more damage, because as you see, my buff is still up, a little bit of time left. And he's low on HP, so he's on the back foot. He could be baiting. Baiting I'll get into later, but he could be baiting here. I don't think he is. So I throw down another spec bow, hopefully to get through his block. He's blocking here, mitigating a lot of damage. Blocking is very important. Again, I'm still trying to kill him. I get my stun off, I shoot my spec bow, but again, my stun, and then he break freeze and roll dodge. He's low on HP. He knows the burst is coming. Right here, I let my buff down, but I instantly switch back, pop my Vigor, threw down my Major Resolve, applied my Elisus, threw down my Restoring Light, and straight back to it. Light attack to proc the essence, wrecking blow to apply some pressure, as well as my Major Berserk. The stun again. My Kajalner's proc, which does damage. Here comes the spec bow after the stun. He's low, stunned, executes, he's out of stab, he's dead. So, that is basic rotation. Again, you need your Major Brutality. You need your Major Resolve. Minor Resolve, I have this hot I'm going to throw down. When I am fighting, I am throwing down an Elisus. When I go on my offensive, I'm light attacking to apply my Essence Thief. I then come in here, boom, Wrecking Blow, into another light attack, because in PvP, your light attack weaving everything. This maximizes your damage. Light attack weave into your ability. There's no point in just doing this. This is not what you do. Light attack, boom. Light attack, boom. Right? Boom, 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 boom. That maximizes your damage. After your Wrecking Blow, I'm either doing this with my ult, if I have a crescent, and then I'm stunning, spec bow, execute. So here you go. Biting tag. She does a bunch of damage. She hits really hard. So I hope this is a good clip. Throw down my buffs already. I'm going to wait for my rally cry to proc before I swap bars. As you see, I tried to Ellie sus and my thing went off. So it is what it is. So I light attack, proc that, boom. Right? I took some damage. She out damaged me in that initial window. So I switched bars. I popped my vigor and I popped my burst heal to get my HP back. I then switch bars again. I throw a light attack as you see there. I then try to go into my wrecking blow and she stuns me. I break free. The first thing I did was I tried to block kill. The first thing I did was try to block here. The game didn't let me, so I'm not blocking here. But just know I'm trying. I'm throwing my burst heal. I'm throwing my burst heals. I'm getting some HP back, and I try to go on the offensive. Obviously, I stun, and boom. So this is baiting right here. So what I did, I'm low, right? She knows I'm low. Boom, she hit me with a javelin, and she hit me with her surprise attack, which is her spammable, drop me down to 56% HP. I throw on my heal, she hit me with a spec bow, another javelin. I'm at 30% HP. I am losing this fight. It gets a little advanced with Kajaners, so I see up here my Kajaner stack is at 3, and I want to line this up. So she hits me, I throw my burst heal, I instantly swap bars. Right here, I'm baiting, right? My buffs are going down, they're almost out. My major resolve has 5 seconds. My minor resolve might be down. Right, let's see. Oh, no, here's my minor resolve. I have a whole 16 seconds. So I swap here, and I go on the offensive, right? My wrecking blow, boom! So I'm low on HP. So the point of baiting is to get them to try to stay on the offensive, or try to bait them into thirsting the kill on their front bar where they are less tanky. Maybe they have their buffs down, so you're able to burst and kill them because they're trying to chase a kill. A lot of players do this, myself included, other duelers included. So I baited her right here. Right, boom, I hit her with all my bursts. Boom, spec bow, and my Kajaners and my other thing goes off and she dies. Baiting, guys, baiting. Baiting get tricky. You need to be able to bar swap fast. When you're getting low, when you're baiting, I'm low on it. Well, let's pretend I'm low on HP here, right? And this guy has full HP, right? Say I have 30% HP. I am baiting here, right? My buffs are up. I have a pot. So my pot is up, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to do this, pop my pot to give me some buffer. I'm going to instantly stun him and go into my buff. And a lot of time when you're baiting, their buffs go down, they're on the front bar, they're less tanky. When you have the burst, they end up dying because of it. So this is why it's very important to keep your buffs up at all time, and do not get too thirsty on your kill. The next thing is going to be when to roll dodge, when to block, and when to heal. I have a 1vx. So before I got here, as you see, I throw up my vigor. This is the hot, goes down. But I throw up my vigor, I throw up my major resolve, and my major brutality was already up. So I go on to the offensive. Boom, I hit this guy. Get stunned. I'm surrounded by 4 people. You can see light attacks coming in. I get stunned. I lose half my HP. Every time I've told you, I break free and roll dodge. After you get stunned, most of this time, you are going to break free and either block or break free and roll dodge. So right here, I break free and roll dodge. Right here is called kiting. So I'm moving away. I'm trying to put some space between me and them. I'm trying to use line of sight, which is maybe going around a tree or coming around the corner here, so they're not able to hit me. So then I can then reapply my buffs right here as I do. I'm blocking the entire time. I'm reapplying these buffs because they're going to be hitting me. I then bar swap because this guy's right here. He didn't heal. This is you right here. These are the new players. This guy is new. As you can see, he's thirsting to kill like I told you not to do. And I instantly go into a stun. I try to spec bomb, he break freeze and roll dodges. Like I said, even he can do that. I then hit this guy with a spec bow, take out a lot of his HP. So these guys are down here. These guys are on their trying to go on their defensive because they lost a lot of HP. This is AoE. I'm gonna hit him with a crescent. I'm gonna execute this guy. He's gonna die. I'm gonna chase this guy down here. He's gonna stun me. I'm gonna break free and roll dodge. I'm gonna again create space, come around, reapply my buffs, heal, go back on the offensive now that I got myself some line of sight. And right here, I'm going to chase this kill, because when you kill these people, you're going to take less damage. The more people dead in a 1vx, the less damage you're going to take. So right there, I thirsted that kill. I got it. First thing I do, switch to my back bar. Again, create space, line of sight, and I heal. This guy's up here by himself. He jumps down. I turn around because I know this guy's by himself behind me because I can see through the fence that these guys are still on the other side of the fence. So, right there. So right here, let me go through this. He jumps down. This guy's behind me. I turn around, apply my ESO, swap. I crescent. This guy stuns me. This guy's still on the offensive. This guy's on the offensive because he just stunned me. So I'm going to roll dodge. This guy then, for some reason, this is part of the build. Because what is this guy doing? This is part of knowing how to make a build. Why is he doing this? I have no idea. He's level 47. You should not be in Grey Host if you're not CP 160 realistically. But I don't know what that guy's doing, so I'm just gonna kill him. As you see, I roll dodge here after I kill this guy to avoid damage. So boom, kill him, roll dodge in case any burst comes my way. So now I'm going to swap bars. I'm going to get stunned. I'm going to break free. I'm going to roll dodge after I use my burst heal because I took a bunch of damage. Here I am. I'm blocking. I'm reapplying some buffs. ESO back into the damage because I have a burst window. Boom. This guy dies. Back down. Right here. Bunch of people in front of me. I'm on my back bar. Obviously can't do damage when there's 3 people in front of you all doing damage to you. Swap to my back bar. Again, you're going to see me roll dodge a couple times, create space, kite around some items, keep applying my heals and my buffs, roll dodge to avoid any type of damage coming my way because you can't block and move fast. This guy happens to be right in front of me. I burst him. But when you take a lot of damage, you need to heal. When you know damage is coming, that is when you roll dodge. So for example, when it comes to roll dodging and blocking, it can be a little tricky for newer players. Because it's just kind of something that you just know when to do it. You just kind of learn, okay, this is when I should block, this is when I should roll dodge. You should always know when to heal. You're low, I'm taking a bunch of damage, I'm keeping my heals up, right? I'm popping my Eye of the Dead, I'm running out of sustain. Like I said, there's a bunch of damage. I don't survive this. But as you saw earlier in the video, I got bursted, right? They hit me with a stun, I broke free, I instantly roll dodged to avoid any burst, and I used my heal at the same time. Break free, roll dodge, heal. Right? Boom, burst heal. Keep your buffs up, kite around something, stay alive, create space. When it comes to blocking, you block a lot in duels opposed to roll dodging. Well, blocking damage is one of the best ways is the best way to mitigate damage. Obviously, roll dodging, you're not taking damage. Blocking, you're mitigating damage. Sometimes you're coming, as y'all saw there, sometimes when I came up here, I was holding block and I was reapplying my buffs. That is when you want to hold block there, right? I don't really have a line of sight. The only way for me to get to a line of sight would be going off the edge, which then I'm vulnerable the entire way down. Instead, I block and I reapply my buffs. So I'm mitigating any damage coming my way, as well as getting my buffs and healing back up, so I'm able to go on the offensive. So let's talk about burst windows. So burst windows are pretty simple. I have full damage here, right? Or I have full HP here. There's only 2 guys here right now. A third guy's coming. But as I can see, these guys, they're squishy. This guy has 22k HP. So I'm going to try and get my burst off, right? Boom. I crescent this guy. I stun him. He dies. My burst window is now open. Or closed. I'm sorry. That was my burst window. When this fight started, I had a burst window. My buffs were already up. This guy has no HP. I haven't taken any damage. I have a burst window now, right? I burst this guy. As soon as I burst him, I get hit with a stun. I lose a bunch of HP. My burst window's over. Now it's back to going to the defensive. So as you see, again, I roll dodge a couple times. I block, reapply my thing, and now I have a burst window. I have HP back. I've created some space. Some of these guys aren't hitting me. One guy's dead, so I'm taking less damage. This guy didn't heal. Go into my burst. And again, I'm still up here. I'm taking no damage. This is a longer burst window than I usually get. So then I hit that guy. Crescent. Right. Boom. Jump down. Stunned. My burst window is over. Right when I got stunned there and took that damage, my burst window ended. There was no more damage window. It closes. I got stunned. If I stay on my front bar with no heals at 50% HP with 4 people there, I'm going to die. Burst window closed. Back to healing. Back to kiting. Creating space. I fully healed up. This guy comes around the corner by himself. Again, burst window. Right? Boom. I try to burst this guy. I haven't taken any damage. I roll dodge to avoid any more damage so I can finish this kill. My burst window, again, is now closed. There's nobody in front of me. There's nobody I can damage. I don't want to fight in an open field. So I go back to kiting. So that's your burst window. Alright, so to set up the burst, this one, I did it so fast. So I use my crescent to apply pressure. He stuns me. I'm trying to bait him. He's a good player. He does a lot of damage. He's good at keeping his buffs up. I go for a bait. So, right there, I hit him with a light attack. I then hit him with the, what's it called? The wrecking blow. Right after the wrecking blow, I hit him with the spec bow. I then hit him with a light attack into my javelin, and then my execute. So the light attack will proc my Cajourners, so then I can then instantly hit him with my stun. So that Cajourners burst hits him at the same time. So my burst setup here is the light attack with the wrecking blow into a spec bow, into a stun, into an execute. So you're always going to have a burst to line up. So on this build, to set up my burst, right, I put up my buffs. So I have my beetles. So the first thing to do to set up my burst is I'm throwing down my beetles. So you can line up 2 bursts with the beetles. The first one or the second one does more damage. I want to apply boom damage at the same time. So let's pretend all these guys are zerging me. They followed me around the corner. Right, I come around the corner. I'm going to pop this right here. And when this hits low enough, so they hit at the same time. So all I did, this one, like I said, is simple. I just hit my beetles, I come around the corner, and I ult it. That's all the burst is on this. there's multiple people. There's one person here, right? Say there's one guy I know, he's low, he's following me, right? I'm going to come here. I don't have my ult, but I'm going to light attack javelin into my spammable, which is down. So this one here, I need to set up my burst. I have my essence, right? As y'all saw there, I hit my essence. Every time I hit my essence, this is 10% damage. So the first thing I do after I apply my buffs, I'm going to put this on him. I'm then going to come into a light attack, throw my wrecking blow, which buffs the rest of my attacks, right? So this would go straight into this, right? Which would be a wrecking blow, spammable, bunch of damage with my major berserk, into a spec bow, which is damage, potentially into this, and then this, and this stuff, right? Or then execute. So, again, I'll show y'all one more time. Lining up your burst is pretty simple, right? I'm jumping around, I'm on my back bar, boom, right? I apply Ellie Sus on this guy. This guy is my target. Light attack. Obviously, this would be easier to grab. We're both going to be moving. Right, boom, hit him with this. Maybe into a crescent instantly, into a stun, and then this. Crescent, undodgeable. I might hit this guy with a wrecking blow. He might roll dodge. I hit him with the crescent. He still takes that damage. He finishes roll dodge. I hit him with the javelin. And then I hit him with the spec bow. So that's how I set that up. Okay, when you put it all together, you end up with, like this clip I showed earlier. Right, I set up my burst. Right, this guy, I wrecking blowed him, and then I crescent him. He died. My burst window ended after I killed this guy and I got stunned and took all this damage. So I then swapped to my back bar after break freeing and roll dodging, go into a burst heal, start kiting, making space, giving myself some room to survive, some room to breathe, reapplying all my buffs until I'm able to open back up my burst window and set up some burst, which in this case, my burst I went with because this guy was already low, was I decided to just try to javelin and then spec bow the guy. Unfortunately, he roll dodged it. So then, I go back, I grab my Essence Thief. I wrecking blow this guy, again, straight into the crescent. This guy's low, so I just decided to execute him. I didn't need to stun him. He was already low. That's something you're just going to have to figure out. I jump down to thirst this guy. Here comes the javelin, right? This guy, he's in the middle of throwing it. Here's the end of my burst window. Boom. End of burst window. This guy's low. You could chase him. You would then die. Again, break free, roll dodge, swap, reapply all your buffs. Make space. This guy's coming around the corner. What do? I don't have time to apply Ellie Sus. It's already on him, so I'm okay. Light attack. Boom. Into the wrecking. Into the crescent. I try to stun him, hit the wrong guy. I shoot a spec bow because he had space. And then I executed him. So when you put it all together, it kind of looks like this. I'll play the clip all in full. See, this is what happens when you put it together. Boom. Set up your burst. Kill the guy. Burst window closed. Run. Kite. Reapply your buffs. Back into your burst window. Right. Boom. Burst. Chase this guy. Stunned. Break free. Roll dodge. Burst window over. Kite. Reapply buffs. Guys coming around the corner. Back into your burst. Boom. Burst window open. Go into your burst. Messed up this burst. Spec bowed him because he had distance. Ran into him. Executed. So that's what happens when you put it all together. So to go back over everything once again, we went over making a build, the important things on a build, such as your survivability, your damage, and sustain. Tank set with rally, help with critical damage, along with some weapon damage and spell damage. Essence Thief, which gives sustain, some healing, and damage. Blood Spawn, helping me generate ultimate so I can use my ult more, helping me get more damage. with the extra resistances, helping me stay alive. Trainee, giving me health, helping me stay alive. We went over traits, the important traits to use in PvP, such as Impen, 1 or 2 pieces of 1 and 4 reinforced, your weapon trait, which ends up being Nerd, Sharpened, Powered, Defending, all that type of stuff. Your jewelry traits, Infused, Protective, Swift, Bloodthirsty, a couple mythics, Markin, Monomyth, Saint, and Seducers, Death Dealer's Feet, basically the 4 main mythics that you use. Like I said, Monomyth and this one give some tankiness and damage. Death Dealer's Feet will give you sustain and some damage. The Saint Seducer will debuff them, indirectly helping you with survivability or maybe with some damage as well as buffing you. We went over CPs. If you're new at the game, probably want to go more defensive CP than damage. You should have enough damage as long as your build is straight. We then went over rotation. Make sure your major resolve and minor resolve is always up. 2 most important things, along with your major brutality. If you have it, your major prophecy, whether it's a crit pot or you have like an actual buff. If you're using something like Camo Hunter, you don't have to worry about keeping it up because it's always going to be up on that bar. Why do I have a sword in my hand? We then went over when to block, when to roll dodge, when to heal. Blocking, as y'all saw, when I was kiting up the stairs, I had nowhere to roll dodge around a corner. I was stuck. I ran up, I made distance, I reapplied my buffs in block to mitigate the damage, so I can out heal the damage. Roll dodge, I get stunned, I break free, and I instantly roll dodge, completely dodging damage. I see somebody setting up burst, maybe I see somebody throw their beetles, and I know they have spec bow. I roll dodge into them, so their beetles, which is AoE, misses, and if they try to spec bow, obviously it won't hit me because I dodged it. Healing, obviously, when you're losing HP, you want to heal. Right, you fall low, burst heal up. Like I said, usually when you get stunned and then you break free and roll dodge, you've taken damage. You usually want to kind of heal. So if you hit, heal straight into roll dodge, right? Boom. It's going to go off basically at the same time. So then we taught you to line up your burst. Depending on your build, you're going to have some type of burst, whether you're using beetles or using blast bones. If you're using blast bones, to set up your burst is you're going to summon your blast bones, you're going to hit this guy with your javelin, and then you're going to go into your blood for blood spammable or your whatever it is, and your blast bones is going to hit him along with your ult or your vamp spammable. Or if you're using this, you're going to wrecking blow this guy straight into a crescent, stun, spec bow, right? So you're comboing your damaging abilities together, so you're able to apply pressure and kill somebody. We went over your burst window, when you're able to attack and when you're not able to attack. Obviously, as you saw in those clips, I was taking no damage, I had full HP, my burst window was there. I hit this guy, burst him, he died, I got stunned, took a bunch of damage, my burst window was over. I had to go back to the defensive, and I had to heal, I had to keep my buffs up, I had to stay alive. We then put it all together. Kind of just shows you what it looks like, what happens when you put it all together. One last important thing there is to know your type of playstyle. 1vxing is not the only way to play. It's the way I find the most fun. For example, you can be a ganker like Epic. Your main priority is staying undetected and bursting people. So your burst window as a ganker is going to be you and Stealth do your burst window as a ganker is you're gonna come up to this guy, you're gonna buff up behind him because you're in stealth, he can't see you, and then you're just gonna wombo combo him, right? And this guy is probably gonna die. Which then you're gonna stealth, go back to being alive. Right? Stealth, run away, you're not brawling somebody like that. Sometimes you're stuck, you have to fight somebody as a ganker. That's when you know when you should go on your back bar, when you should heal, when you should roll dodge, when you should block. Now you know. Right? And as a ganker, you have so much damage, you can just in-cap this guy's spec bomb, you might be able to turn and kill him. So, again, playstyles are very important. 1vxing, you're going to be usually tankier, good amount of damage, well-rounded build, right? It's like being in MMA, you can wrestle and you can box. Gankers, they can only really box, or they can only wrestle, right? Or sucker punch somebody. We'll call it that. A ganker can only sucker punch somebody, right? That's what a ganker's doing. Even if you're XV1ing, say you're the guy chasing me, these are all very important things to know. Because as you saw in that video, where I like 1v6 those people, these guys did not keep their buffs up. They did not heal when they were supposed to. Some of them broke free, and I don't know what they try to do. So if these guys had a good build, they knew their rotation, they kept their buffs up, Xing really probably would not be possible. Yes, there is skill. There's going to be players who are just mechanically better than you, but it's going to be so much harder. Xing would basically be impossible if everybody knew how to utilize their block and their roll dodge and their heal. For example, blocking is very important. You're moving right here, boom. This is very good when you're playing. Right, if you're trying to get away, boom. You run, you're in a building, say, and you're trying to come around a corner, right, boom, boom. Right, you want to jump, block, jump, block, jump, block. Right, roll dodge, jump, block. Right, this mitigates all damage basically. Right, if you come into here, your roll dodge is dodging all damage, and then you're instantly going into a jump block, creating space. Right, look how much space I created with that. And all here, and I basically took no damage. I get stunned, break free, roll dodge. Use your heals, man. Use your heals. That's all I gotta say.